And that's why I'm not invited back to my aunt's house for Thanksgiving anymore.
Speaking of aunts, you hear about the new Percy Jackson trailer?
Why didn't you tell me that sooner? We're gonna go watch right now.
Faster than we anticipated.
Clover, why is there half the goat in your pants?
You know, man, this is actually...
Shut up, wench!
Not to panic.
What makes you think he was a villain?
Because he kills monsters.
Why don't I like this?
That's basically what happened when I watched the trailer for the Percy Jackson television series versus when I actually watched it. I knew I didn't like it, but I didn't quite know why. Because I am a massive, massive Percy Jackson fan. I know I've talked about a lot of things that I like on this channel. Community, Everything Everywhere, All at Once, Mr. Krabs' ass. But this book series was my life for so long. I remember catching up to this series by the time The Son of Neptune came out, which... 2011, oh, I'm so old. And I remember convincing myself, with the help of a friend who encouraged my silly fantasies, that my dad wasn't actually just some old guy who wasn't in my life at all, but instead a Greek deity. Who also wasn't in my life at all, but for more godly reasons. So much of my childhood was being utterly infatuated with Rick Riordan's worlds, from the Kane Chronicles to one book of the Gods of Asgard before I went, this is just homeless Percy Jackson. And I endured the disappointment of both live-action movies, so when I saw that a show was being made with Rick's involvement, I was... well, I showed you already. I was beyond excited, only to be met with... meh. It was meh. But I couldn't figure out precisely why. So here's the deal. I am going to figure that out, and then I'm going to tell you. That's it. That's the whole idea. So to do that, we have to go back to where it all began. The book. Now, I would show you my fully intact 2 decades old book that I love and cherish with almost everything in me, but as of like a month ago, it's no longer fully intact. These two motherfuckers ripped it to shreds, and now it looks like this. But truth be told, I don't really know if I'm gonna like this book at all. Now, obviously, part of the reason I'm reading this is to refamiliarize myself with the source material, but it's also to see if I still like the book. Maybe the adaptation is good, but my tastes have changed. I've grown, and Percy Jackson just isn't the series for me anymore. Maybe it's my fault that... No, I'm just fucking with you. The book bangs. I've already read it. Let me tell you, this book bangs so hard that it led me to reread the entirety of the original Percy Jackson series, and now I've moved on to the Kane Chronicles because I'm trying to reread the entire thing in order. I looked up the order online and got mad because they didn't include the side books. So I know it's not because I don't like the source material. The reason I don't like the TV series is for some other, different, mysterious reason. Now, I would list off things I like about the book, but honestly, there's no point. Just because I like something doesn't mean the show has to implement it. It's an adaptation, after all. We should let the writers, actors, directors, etc. have a little bit of creative control, not only because it's more fun to create that way, but also adapting something line for line, shot for shot is fucking boring. If you want that, just read the book, you nerd. But you can't go too far in the other direction, or else why make an adaptation of this book specifically? If you want to create an all-new story, make a new fucking story, you nerd. So we should figure out the things that are absolutely unquestionably necessary, in my opinion, to include in a Percy Jackson adaptation. 1. Percy needs to be Percy. He is the best part of the book. He carries it with his charm, his wit, his relatability, and his growth. And if we take away him, we lose the core of what makes the book great. Keep him, like, exactly as he is. Keep his charm, keep his quips, keep his daddy issues, keep his kind of bad understanding of social situations, and sometimes he just blurts out the first thing that's on his mind and it's kind of awkward for him. Keep everything. 2. The mystery needs to be constantly progressed. Hints dropped all the time, foreshadowing at every corner, and you really feel like you're figuring out the mystery along with the questing kids.
Urethra.
Yes, that is my group name for Percy, Annabeth, and Grover. Just don't talk about it. I'm gonna Just let me have this. If the mystery isn't engaging, then what's the point of following along? I want to feel like a detective without any of the proper training or necessary baseline intelligence. 3. The relationships are also very important. The most important ones are the ones between the questing kids and between Percy and his mother. Grover and Percy need to feel like best friends. Percy and Annabeth have to have a quick enemies to friends arc, and it can't be fucking annoying. Annabeth and Grover need to feel like they have a troubled history. And Percy and his mother just need time. Time to show how close they are and how much they mean to each other, so breaking them apart is that much more heart-wrenching. 4. The tone needs to be light-hearted and fun. But also, don't be afraid to get serious when things are serious. The book didn't pull any punches. I mean, in this book for kids, there's references to domestic abuse and alcoholism. Kronos' descriptions sound straight out of a horror movie. I mean, Percy's chest gets fully ripped open. Like, things get a little crazy, but most of the book feels like a silly, goofy adventure with 3 kids trying to figure shit out, and it makes the serious moments hit that much harder. And 5, kill Gabe. His ass needs to die. Here we have all the things that, in my opinion, should be in a Percy Jackson adaptation. Besides, like, names, obviously. We're not going to pull a Last Airbender and call Chiron Charon or Percy Perky. There are probably things I'm forgetting or things that I think are so integral to the plot and story that I'm just neglecting to mention them. But for the most part, that's it. Anything else is fair game to change as long as there's a good reason to change it. Now, we know the book is good. It's the source. It's what tells you what to do. But I think we need a warning. We need a parable. We need something that tells us what not to do. And I have the perfect thing. This movie sucks. Almost universally dragged. No one really likes it, at least that I've met and talked to and seen on the internet. Now, it's unenjoyable for a variety of reasons, not just because it's a bad adaptation, but those are things that would be bad in any piece of media, not a Percy Jackson adaptation specifically. Let's go back through our 5 important things and see how they fuck up. Number 1, Percy is not Percy. His ass is without a quip, without a joke. Percy kind of acts like a player character in a video game. Enough personality to, like, exist in the world and talk to people, but that's kind of about it. This works in a video game because you're kind of meant to live vicariously through them. I'm not supposed to be Percy, I'm supposed to be invested in what he's doing, and my ass is bored. 2, the mystery is different, but not all in a bad way. They kind of simplify the evil plan. Instead of a bunch of moving pieces, this is it. Get Percy to the underworld with the bolt. Get Hades the bolt. Kill Percy. But, even a plot as simple as that still finds itself with some contrivances. What if Percy never wanted to leave to go to the underworld? What if the group never went to Luke before they went to the underworld? What if the shield didn't crack when they got to Hades? Why didn't Luke just fly away with the bolt? What the fuck is that about? I like how the journey was far more intentional in the movie. The book sometimes just has conveniences that happen for no real reason. They just so happen to stumble into Auntie M's. Grover just so happens to find a dog worth $200 after their backpacks explode. Percy just so happens to fall into a river and get 3 little stones that are integral to leaving hell, and they didn't have a plan before that. But still, I'd rather stumbling into success rather than it being spoon-fed to you. 3, the relationships. They're all awful. When Percy meets his mom for the first time in the movie, he hugs and kisses her. And then just complains and is annoying and weird. He never really shows any affection for her besides a real wimpy hug. Him and Grover kind of feel not bad, actually, but cutting off so much of their introduction doesn't really help them at all. In the book, it's so obviously Grover and Percy against the world, while in the movie, all they do is chill at a pool for a couple minutes, Percy gets mad because his dyslexia is acting up, and that's it. But even though that kind of is not great, Annabeth's is much worse, because Annabeth isn't a person in this movie. She could just not exist and nothing would change. 4, the tone is weird. Whenever it tries to get serious, it falls flat and the jokes never land for the reason they're supposed to, so it just feels like it's trying too hard, I guess. That makes me just groan all the time. It's a groan tone. 5, they kill Gabe. Good job. Full marks, movie. Now, if we tally up the score, the movie gets a solid, 1.5 out of 5. Which doesn't sound good, because it isn't, but it isn't the thing that makes it such a bad adaptation. What is the final nail in the proverbial coffin is kind of a result of the medium itself. There are so many things cut to make it just a 2-hour feature-length movie, and it shows. Clarice, Ares, the Oracle, and Dionysus are all cut. Percy figuring out his father's identity is cut. Hell, Charon's suits are completely cut! And what is a man without his suit? Listen, I'm okay with things being cut, but I want something in return. I want a reason, not just to save time or some bullshit. Like, look, they replaced going to the Gateway Arch, which gives Annabeth a bit more character and lets Percy get his shit kicked in, to going to the Lincoln Monument, where they just fight a Hydra. So what we learn from the Lightning Thief, besides to not write poorly, is to cut and replace things with a purpose. If you want to explore a new idea or create something new entirely, go for it. But make sure there's intention behind it, or else it'll be worse than something bad on its own. Okay, that was a long preamble, but I'm serious about this shit, okay? All right, bye. I'm gonna go watch the show. It's only gonna take a minute. Like maybe a week. Maybe 2 weeks. I don't know. It's not gonna take that long. Bye. I'm back. I know for you it hasn't been that long, but for me, I wrote the first bit in May. I wrote the second bit in June going into July. So, oops.
Also oops because I'm out of focus for a little bit. Only 5 minutes. I'm good at this.
But now I am here. I have watched the show. I've taken notes, and I'm here to inform you on why I think this show is garbage. But my opinion's changed a little bit. Not much, but a little bit. First, let's go back through our 5 pillars. Number 1, Percy. Ugh, Percy. The actor they got, this kid, Walker Scobell?
Scobell.
Incredible Percy. Well, he could be an incredible Percy. He's got Percy's swag in spades, but sometimes the writing just fails him. Not all the time, mind you. Many of the emotional scenes, especially with his mother, are delivered incredibly. Like when they separate on Half-Blood Hill, or when they come back together, but not really, in Percy's dream. At the end of the show, hell, even in the shield scene, which I despise for other reasons, but we'll get back to it, he's really, really good. Him repeating "I'm okay" and getting more and more strained with each repetition is chilling and gave me goosebumps. And his ass has quips. Yeah, baby! Fell over a tree branch? Quip. Talking to a mentor after just waking up from a coma? Quip. Sitting at a fountain getting splashed by his friend suffering from chimera poison? You know his ass gonna be quipping. Percy's got a solid dry delivery and vibe that I really enjoy. But there are many problems with Percy that I just personally can't get over. The biggest one is his non-rebellious nature, at least in the first half of the show. After Ares, he kind of turns it on, which you think would be good, but actually it just makes it all worse. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's look at his interaction with Dionysus, huh? He starts out a little rude, but once he learns he's speaking to a god, he immediately switches to reverence and respect, even when Mr. D is pretending to be his father. Percy, get mad! Don't just do what he tells you to. You're currently pissed at your father, and yet the most sass you can muster is that really all you have to say to me? Dude, get mad. And then against Clarice, he never chirps back. He just gets pushed around, and Big Brother Luke has to step up and save the day. This is focus. Is this focus? Let's hope. Then, in the next confrontations against Clarice, sure, he might win those encounters, but he seems like he's gonna piss himself every second of them. Like, quick comparison with the books. Every time he sees her, he's shit-talking. From the moment they meet, to when they're in the toilets, to when she's attempting to cut him up. Even when on the back foot, he's always instigating, and he's never taking anything laying down. But here, he takes it literally falling down. And then against Ares, no, I'm not done, it's the same shit. He's so visibly rattled. And he just does what Ares tells him to do. Like, really? After Percy returns from the water park, though, he seems to turn it on a bit and stops taking Ares' disrespect. And for the rest of the series, he doesn't take anyone else's disrespect. He stands up to gods themselves because he's grown braver. And you'd think that would make it better, but it's not! Because now it doesn't make sense for his character to have this stubbornness, this fuck you attitude. That's me to you. Just kidding, I love you. Not much changed between these two conversations for Percy. He just had a near-death experience, is all. That's not a big deal. We don't see a reason that Percy would change into somebody more confrontational and more confident, but he does anyways, and it makes the remaining times he does ring hollow because now it doesn't feel in character for him. Okay, that was one flaw, and I spent too much time on it, so I'll move quicker through the rest. Now, I did say his ass was quipping, but only sometimes, actually. He never quips when he's in danger, which for me is a big part of his character. It's his way of coping with the fucked up circumstances he finds himself in as a 12-year-old boy. Like, take the Minotaur scene when he sees his mom disintegrate. In his mind, she's straight up gone, no coming back, ever. In the book, he gets pissed, immediately goes in with no weapon, actively taunting something we're not even sure speaks English. That's real hater energy, as well as a quick peek into Percy's mind. Jokes are a way he stays lucid, he stays in it, and he stays relatively grounded in situations of extreme danger or grief. But in the show, he's quiet. He screams for his mom once, and then it's quiet. And that silence is shared in other fights, like with the Chimera or with Ares. There's just that part of his personality gone. Secondly, his daddy issues, which... The crux of my problem lies at the end of episode 4 into episode 5, where Percy's attitude about his father goes from extreme hatred and distaste to the point of not even wanting to attempt to talk to him, to one of complete enamorment and respect just because Poseidon saved Percy's life. Now, this sounds like a big thing. Saving somebody's life, that's pretty cool of Poseidon, especially his own son. Until you take more than 5 seconds thinking about it. Percy should be more confused and possibly even pissed off. Why did Poseidon save Percy? Was it truly because he loved him or because Poseidon needed somebody to get the bolt back for him? Why is this the first real tangible thing Percy's dad has done for him ever? Maybe because Percy's finally useful to him. Now, this isn't necessarily true, but it should be running through Percy's mind. His dad wasn't even there. There was a messenger. There was a naiad. Naiad. How do you pronounce that?
Naiad.
Naiad! This was easy for Poseidon to do. Do you know what would be harder? Do you know what would really have shown his love? If he saved Percy's mother. If he gave them safe travel to Camp Half-Blood so Sally wouldn't be in danger. That could be something to get Percy to admire him, not saving Percy's life when both it's in his interest to and it's as easy as waving his hand. Percy doesn't, or at least shouldn't, respect authority just because it benefited him. He should be second-guessing, he should be upset, hell, maybe he should even be paranoid. His personality should not do a complete 180 where now this quest almost feels more important than saving his mom. Next, the mystery is not bad. It pretty much follows the book beat for beat with a few minor, worse things. For one, they miss a bunch of puzzle pieces to let the audience solve the mystery with the kids. At least from what I've noticed. Maybe I'm a dumb boy who didn't notice them in the show, but in the book, there's so many. For example, right in the fucking beginning. After Percy waterbended Nancy Bubbafett into the fountain, this was said about Miss Dodds. There was a triumphant fire in her eyes, as if I'd done something she'd been waiting for all semester. Yeah, it really was. She was sent there to scope his ass out. This foreshadows not only that Percy's dad is Poseidon, but also that the gods have been watching him, looking for a mistake, looking to see if he is the thief. Then take the questing kid's first conversation with Ares, when he says, "Your dad and I go way back. After all, I'm the one who told him about my suspicions with old corpse breath. Framing somebody to start a war, oldest trick in the book." Interesting! Framing is the oldest trick in the book. I wonder how you could have such an extensive knowledge of that. There's probably a million instances of stuff like that I haven't and won't catch, but in the show, there doesn't seem to be anything like that. There's nothing that subtle. There's nothing you can go back and watch and be like, oh, that's why that was said, besides a few heavy-handed statements from Grover and Chiron before Percy even left to go to Montauk. Third on our list, the relationships, which I think are the strongest part of the show, for the most part. Percy and Grover are incredible together, partially because Grover is the best part of the show, and I love him with my whole heart. It's very easy to see why they're best friends. They work great together, and I love them and their banter. Now, when Annabeth gets introduced, it gets worse and then it gets better. I love the idea here where Annabeth and Percy are fighting all the time and Grover has to mediate, especially in the beginning of the show. It's similar to the books, but instead of childishly bickering over inconsequential things, the show tries to use it as character moments for the two to show why their personalities clash. Annabeth is a weird girl. She's very blunt and direct with her words while being very vague and hazy with her actions, which Percy does not vibe with. He chooses her on this quest in large part because he doesn't think they'll ever be friends. That's cold as hell and ripe for potential conflict in the future. But then their big argument is, how do I say this, fucking stupid. Let's look at this scene right after they escape the bus as they're walking on the Seder path. Percy wants to call back to camp for help and Annabeth finds that idea pitiful. Great start. I like that. While I think Percy should also probably be too proud to ask for help, I'm willing to not care about that as much, especially if he's trying to give himself the best shot possible at saving his mother. Annabeth not wanting help makes the most sense. She's been training for a quest like this for years, a large portion of her life, and backing down now would be shameful not only to her, but to her mother. She's under that mentality of glory, of Kleos, of gaining status and reputation with her deeds, and she can't understand how Percy would, in her eyes, give up so easily. Then the argument turns into something stupid. Annabeth switches from being understandably annoyed that Percy is whining so much to being like, why are you so afraid of who you are? What? Like, am I missing something? Annabeth repeats that Percy's not just a kid, like Percy said that about himself, or at least alluded to it at some point, but he never did that. He never did. Even in this conversation, he doesn't sound afraid. It's just, if your head wasn't up your own ass so much, you would probably want to ask for help too. It would be one thing if Annabeth was proven wrong at some point. If Percy was like, I've never been afraid of who I am, and you're just coming at me because you're blinded by your own craving for Kleos. But no. It even gets brought back in the last episode, like it's some sort of growth Percy went through, but it's not. He didn't. I mean, Percy isn't anti-authority like he is in the books, but he's certainly not combat averse, so accusing him of being afraid is weird, especially because it seems that the writers are on her side.
Hi, quick editor's note. You might have noticed contradictory statements that I said myself. Me. Earlier I was like, why is Percy so scared all the time? And now here I'm like, why is Annabeth calling Percy scared? But I think those are still different, because Annabeth isn't accusing him of being cowardly towards people who have authority or power over Percy. He's scared of who he is. He's scared that he's a son of Poseidon. He's scared that he's so powerful and that there's all this shit in this new world, and he just wants help, and he just wants to be carried and coddled everywhere. And that's not true. He's not scared of the Minotaur. He's not scared of the Furies. He's not scared of Medusa. He's never been scared of, like, the world that he inhabits. Bye.
Okay, that was a big rant about a small part in their relationship. The rest is okay. The rest is good, I'd say. There is the shield scene. But again, I'll get there. Percy teaches Annabeth to be more empathetic, to not revere the gods so much, and that glory means nothing if gained selfishly. And Annabeth helps Percy stabilize himself, helps him not fall to the gods' manipulation, to remember his mother and stay true to himself. The interactions between these three are sweet and nice and fun. Their gaffes and banter are entertaining and endearing, and the love they grow for each other is palpable. And Percy and his mom, it expands on the book with more time with them in the form of flashbacks, and it's not bad. The times we see Sally and Percy, it does seem like they love each other very much, especially in the introduction to their relationship, which is the most important part. But there's a new thing here. Sally is no longer infallible. In the books, she's perfect. She doesn't do anything wrong, ever. Here, she still tries her best and still loves Percy very, very much, but sometimes she gets frustrated, sometimes she yells, and sometimes she makes mistakes. And that's way better, in my opinion. And Percy's little offering after his first dinner, that might be the best scene in the entire show. It's a great monologue and a really creative way to show that Percy is still thinking of his mother. In the book, it's easy to portray that. I mean, his thoughts are readable. But the show made the active effort to make sure the audience knows that Percy never forgets about his mom. My only problem with this relationship is that Percy does forget about his mom. I've already kind of brought this up, but it really frustrates me how easily the quest and Poseidon overshadows his desire to save his mother in the back half of the show. From Annabeth being the one to bring up his mom in the shield scene, to Grover being the one to decide to confront Hades, like, Percy shouldn't even be a little conflicted about that in himself. And it frustrates me that he is. 4. Tone. The tone is so weird. Like, I think it's mostly the music's fault because the music is constantly this orchestral, epic, awe-inspiring, amazing, blah, 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 blah. Like, at all points, no matter the vibe. It makes everything feel like it's supposed to be more serious and grandiose than it actually is, but it's also so generic that nothing ends up being memorable. But on the plus side, it's lighter than the movie's tone. There are plenty of characters who are silly with it. Ares starts Twitter fights, Hades banters with Percy and Grover, the vibe of the main group is great, like, good is good. My only other issue, besides the music, is that there are too many life or death moments, especially too many self-sacrifice moments. The first one, perfect. When Percy does his badass spin move to lock Annabeth in the stairwell while he goes and fights Echidna and Chimera while poisoned, that's sick. I like that one. However, the other ones, the golden chair and the lost pearl and Annabeth getting stuck in the trees, all suck and are bad. They bring the tone down and don't really contribute anything else. It's not a Game of Thrones or an Invincible where there's genuine stakes and danger. So those moments can't hinge on how dangerous it is, because it's not, and it'll never be. The reason the first scene I mentioned worked is because it's not just for drama. It also shows a lot of Percy in it. It shows that he now cares enough about Annabeth to not want to see her die. It shows that he's readied himself for his own death, and it shows that he has no faith in his father to heal him, so if he's gonna go out, he might as well go out swinging. The other instances offer nothing of substance besides, ooh, it's gonna happen here. It's unnecessary and repetitive and drags down the mood, which, in my opinion, lessens the severity and impact of the genuinely serious or sad moments. 5. Gabe lives! God damn it! Okay, so that's it. I give the show a 2.5 out of 5, I guess. Like, it's not bad, it's fine. There are things it does badly, but there are things that are redeemable and things that I think are even pretty good. So, why do I still have such a distaste for this show? Well, let's remember something real quick about this shit-ass, ass-and-ass movie. Fucking up all my necessary points was not the thing that made the movie so bad. It's that it skipped over so much, and the things it added didn't have any direction or intent, which made the whole thing worse than it otherwise would have been. And this show is a different side of the same coin. Or maybe a different coin. I don't know how similar it is, but I'm trying to integrate everything together and make it seem more cohesive than it actually is, so bear with me. Because this show, while being a pretty faithful adaptation to the book, does throw quite a few switch-ups. Many new ideas are planted in the cracks. But my issue with almost every single one of these new ideas is that no matter how good of an idea it is initially, it never gets cultivated properly. There seems to be a constant stream of new arcs or themes or reinterpretations of characters that start off strong but end up wilting or never growing in the first place. There's fertile soil here for sure, but damn it, I just can't think of a way to end this plant metaphor thing. So I'll just end it like this, I guess. Let's take one of the earliest examples of this phenomenon, the hashtag not all monsters theme, subplot, thing that pops up from time to time, probably that last one. It's introduced in one of the first scenes of the show, in a flashback sequence when Percy is remembering visiting the Met with his mother.
Is that why you named me after him? Because he was a hero?
What makes you think he was a hero?
Because he kills monsters.
Not everyone who looks like a hero is a hero. And not everyone who looks like a monster is a monster.
And that sentence is the thing. Not everyone who looks like a hero is a hero, not everyone who looks like a monster is a monster. Next, a seemingly different concept gets introduced. Kleos, or glory. Kleos is described as almost a physical thing, an unseen currency of sorts that you earn from feats of strength, or heroism, or a sub-15-minute Super Mario 64 16-star speedrun, because while that's not quite record-worthy, it does put you in the top 12 people in the world, and if that's not worthy of glory, I don't know what is. But Kleos can be earned, not only to gain respect from those around you, but from the gods themselves. Because of this, Kleos is silently very influential to all demigods, especially those with drive and ambition. Take Annabeth, for example. She is introduced as someone who would do almost anything for a win to prove her strategic superiority to gain glory. But the pursuit of Kleos might have more to it than it might seem. I mean, look at Annabeth's description of it later in the show.
You want to know how I ended up alone on the road in the first place? I started out as a gift to my father. Then he met a woman. They had their own kids. And to her, I wasn't a gift. I was a problem. So I left. It isn't the gods who think that way. It's everybody. But at least with the gods, you know the rules. Show them respect and they'll be in your corner no matter what.
Respect means loyalty. You pay the gods with the Kleos that you've earned and they stay in your corner. But that also means if you in any way disrespect them, that loyalty can be easily rescinded. The hashtag Not All Monsters movement is a pretty common trope, but it does introduce the possibility of more morally gray interactions between the questing kids and the foes they face. And Kleos meshes so well with the previously established world that the book created, while also creating new ways to explore our characters. The setup for both of these is well done. Let's see where it goes. First, we have a small scene that I've complained about already, but it does do one important thing. It reminds the audience how important glory is to Annabeth right before we meet the real Medusa, not just a statue of her beheaded head. In the book, she's just a villain, a bad guy, a goon, with no real depth or importance. Her value really comes with her death, when Percy gets to show how fucking cool he is, Annabeth and Percy get to fight a little bit, and at the end of the book, Sally gets to leave a terrible relationship quickly, painlessly, and with a sudden inflow of cash. Helpful. But here, Medusa's already been introduced as more complex than that, even before we see her on screen. And so when she does enter the story, the expectations are a bit different. Maybe she's not the monster we all think she is. Percy, having also experienced his mother's monologue, has these thoughts parallel to us, and so when Medusa says she won't kill the kids and instead wants to help them, Percy believes her. It's too bad she does end up being a monster and tries to kill the children, so the children have to kill her. Like, unfortunately, even though the scenes right before this try to paint her sympathetically and try to show the gods as the true villains and try to humanize someone even a Fury fears, all that goes out the window when Medusa's like, oh, you kids were mean to me. She really was the monster after all, and gets killed swiftly and with little resistance. There's no hesitation, there's no moral quandary after the deed is done. There's not even a cool fight scene, which is less to this point, but there's not a cool fight scene, which I'm like, well, come on, man, really? She's just killed and then is never really brought up again. Why even try to make her something special if she was just going to end up to be the same goon, that the book created? I guess a silver lining, something the scene does show, is how loyal Annabeth is to Athena. Even in the face of danger, she will still be wrong. She will blindly defend her mother, which again strengthens Annabeth's character and, using this big old brain, provides further context for her quest for glory. She wants it to be able to get her mother's attention and her love. Percy, however, fucks all that up by sending the head to Mount Olympus. Which, side tangent, this scene doesn't make as much sense anymore since Percy's become a little bitch. In the book, Percy has proven he has the courage, stupidity, and, well, impertinence to make such a loud, purposeful, fuck you statement against the gods. Here it's framed solely as a way to dispose of the head, which, by the way, you could just fucking cut it up or something. So the I am impertinent line doesn't really feel as impactful, and also, Percy's just not impertinent anymore. Anyways, I had to get that out. Back on topic. Percy messes up Annabeth and her mother's relationship with this stunt, which we see when the questing kids, it's gonna catch on, I swear, retreat to the Gateway Arch, attempting to hide from the Chimera and Echidna. Annabeth has brought shame upon Athena by co-signing Percy's act, and so she abandons Annabeth in her time of need. I mean, this was just brought up in the train ride over. Annabeth seeks comfort in the fact that she knows how to keep herself in the gods' good graces. She obviously loves her mother. It's apparent in multiple different scenes. But now, due to Percy's dumbass decision-making skills, she has to confront something she's likely been trying to avoid for as long as she can remember. Losing the one family member she feels she has left.
Hee oops again, I'm out of focus again. Don't make fun of me, please, I'm so sorry.
But her reaction to this happening is muted. And that could be okay, like, it is kind of hard to get mad at someone who is currently battling a deadly poison in front of you. I don't speak from experience, but just kind of guessing. But there's nothing that happens even after the fight's resolution. She could have chastised Percy after getting out of that situation. She could have held on to some resentment until it burst. Hell, she could have even quietly broken down in a moment of silence and calm. But none of that happens. Now, Leah Jeffries, the actress of Annabeth, does quite well with the dialogue she's been given. You can tell she is smoldering at Percy, but doesn't want to say anything because if she starts an argument right now and fucks up their whole rhythm, the kids are toast. But it makes me sad that something so important to Annabeth just seems to not matter to her anymore after very little resistance. Like, her arc, spoiler alert, is to learn that the gods are not always 100% correct and maybe, are a little wrong maybe sometimes, kind of. To not value Kleos over everything else. But she doesn't really go through that growth. She just arrives on the opposite side. Once an opposing viewpoint gets brought up, she's like, oh, that's probably right, actually. And where does this happen? At what point did the show try to trick us into believing Annabeth has changed due to her own actions and the environment that surrounds her? In the fucking shield scene, god damn! This scene embodies everything I don't like about this show. Like, everything. First thing, getting the shield is a side quest, a deviation from the normal quest. So why is it treated so fucking dangerously? We don't get that sense of threat level even from Zeus when they encounter him. But for some reason, this rinky-dink-ass water park is in the top 3 most dangerous situation these kids have been in, after the Chimera and trying to drive a normal-ass taxi. I don't feel like this should be a dangerous spot, and when Percy opts for self-sacrifice for the second time in 2 episodes, I'm starting to think maybe this is getting a bit repetitive. They don't even try to figure anything else out. They just look at the chair and go, fuck it, I guess we die. Secondly, well, I included a bunch of points in that first point, but shut up. This feels like an instance of porting something over from the book, but not quite adapting it correctly. In the book, Ares was fucking with the kids. He knew Hephaestus had laid a trap for him and didn't want to get it out of embarrassment, so he sent in the big guns. In the book, he mocks them, gloating about it afterwards, and Percy, not wanting to take that shit, stands up to him. In the show, it's technically the same, but nobody ever confronts Ares about it, even though the trap in question is infinitely more dangerous. And this ties into parts of Percy I dislike. He doesn't confront Ares about that setup at all, not even a, did you know this was happening? Third, and kind of connected to that last point, what the fuck, Percy? Why does this quest matter so much more than your mother? In the book, it takes Ares mentioning that he has some dirt on his mother that finally convinces Percy to agree to do the task. Here, he just does it, because he's scared of Ares, I guess, and he's willing to end his own life before he sees his mother saved. That sucks. Fourth, the dumbass monologues. This show is riddled with poorly written monologues. About half are just exposition dumps, and the other half are supposed to be emotional, moments, but they suck. These in particular I don't like because they don't make any fucking sense. Either of them. Hephaestus is like, if you take the shield back, your mom won't be angry anymore. Why? This is barely even a mission. It's more like a servant's task, not something incredibly epic to achieve. Why would Athena care that Annabeth got Ares his shield back? Oh, that's right, she fucking doesn't. Annabeth did get the shield in the end and saved Percy on top of that, but nothing changed. And Annabeth's speech is not much better. She's all like, oh, you guys are all about glory, but Percy's not about that, so I won't be about that. Shut the fuck up! Percy has not done much to prove he is above that glory life. Nothing Annabeth wouldn't do herself, and she is all about that glory life. Neither were willing to sell out their friends, both were willing to put their own lives on the line for each other. Like, what has Percy done to prove that he's different? Hell, I'd say he's not, because his infatuation with getting this quest completed is mostly to impress his father, to not let him down. Oh, what's that? It kind of sounds like what Annabeth is doing. Also, the monologues are just poorly written, they're clunky, and they're awkward, and they don't leave even a small amount of room for stuff that's implicit or unsaid. Sorry, I said nuance here, and that's not what I meant at all. They just verbal vomited all over you. Ugh, gross. And finally, fifth, if you haven't noticed, I like top 5 lists. Hephaestus looks so fucking stupid. Like most of the gods, they don't feel like powerful deities, they feel like dudes. Hermes is the only one to show even a small amount of his power to show that he's not just some guy, and the fact that I have to go on record and defend Lin-Manuel Miranda is upsetting to me. I'm kidding, Lin-Manuel Miranda. It's just kind of funny to hate on you, but you're great. And if you want me in your next musical, I'd be happy to join. In the books, it's so much cooler because even Mr. D, who does just look like some schmuck, still feels powerful because of passages like this. He turned to look at me straight on, and I saw a kind of purplish fire in his eyes, a hint that this whiny, plump little man was only showing me the tiniest bit of his true nature. I saw visions of grapevines choking unbelievers to death, drunken warriors insane with battle lust, sailors screaming as their hands turned to flippers, their faces elongating into dolphin snouts. I knew that if I pushed him, Mr. D would show me worse things. He would plant a disease in my brain that would leave me wearing a straitjacket in a rubber room for the rest of my life. Like, this is just a glimpse of his power. It's just like a sentence, and yet it feels like he's powerful now. It feels like he's a threat. It feels like he could kill you in a millisecond if he wanted to, and he's not even at a fraction of his power. In the show, none of the gods feel that way. Even Zeus, though he gets the closest, but Hephaestus is the worst offender. This guy does not look like he spends any time in the forge. He looks like your eccentric art teacher from high school who talks like this. This sucks. This whole scene sucks. God damn it. God damn it. Fuck. But again, it comes from a great idea. Hashtag not all monsters, and the Cleos, and Annabeth's relationship with her mother, all are great in theory, but they don't get executed upon, and they all fall flat. For brevity's sake, I'll quickly run through a couple other ideas that I think met a similar fate. Tying back into the hashtag not all monsters movement, Chimera. I would have mentioned her earlier in the list when I was going through all those plot points, but the thing I have to say about her is basically the same as Medusa. She gives a terrible monologue about maybe demigods are the real monsters, and then is a monster and tries to kill the kids for no reason, so whatever, okay. Luke wanting to recruit Percy in the end. Very cool idea, but Luke admitted to wanting to kill Percy with those shoes, right? The shoes were meant for him, not for Grover, so am I missing something? Maybe Luke's trying to trick him here and deceive him because he miraculously survived their hell gauntlet, but it doesn't seem like that. It just seems like a last-minute idea thrown in without any proper setup. Who the fuck was Augustus? Finding satyrs on the path to Pan is a cool idea in concept, as maybe they can shed some light onto where Pan is hiding, but Augustus doesn't do that. He breaks the rules of the Lotus Casino by having a selective memory sometimes. He runs away from the kids in the end, even though he's supposed to have forgotten Grover by that point. Like, why, was he trying to hide Grover? What the fuck was his deal? Grover getting Percy kicked out of Yancey is so fun, but unfortunately, even though Percy's best friend just stabbed him in the back, the only reaction he has is, "Mom, I don't want to see him. Get him out of here." You could have tied into the prophecy, one of your friends will betray you type thing, but no, nothing comes of it. It just kind of gets dropped. Percy thinking that Luke is kind of right, maybe. It's only brought up once by Chiron in the end, but it also doesn't really make sense with the way that Percy now views his father. I like that in the book, Luke and Percy are foils, even though I think there it isn't even taken far enough, but in the show, it's almost negligible. It's nothing. And there's more. Do you see what I mean now? Like, I don't think the show is bad. I think the show is decent. It's fine. But I'm so disappointed because it had the potential to be something great, but it just didn't make it to the finish line. At least, in my opinion.
Hi. I forgot to record an end bit for this video, so here we are. But yeah, those are all my thoughts. There are more things I liked and more things I didn't like. I just don't feel I need to go any more in depth than I already did. Like, I had my little thesis statement of why the show disappointed me, and even though there are so many other things to talk about, I'm good now. I've got it all off my chest, But other than that, thank you for watching. Especially like my community video, the amount of support and that's been so cool. Every single comment is just so nice. You guys are so nice, so thank you for indulging me in my little rambles and rants. But genuinely, thank you for watching. Thank you for any sort of attention you give me, because I crave it and I need it to survive. And if you look away, I'll die. So, ball's in your court now. That's all I have to say. Bye-bye. I'll see you soon, hopefully. Maybe not. Who knows? Bye-bye.